Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Wheel Estate Show. We're your hosts, Ryan Kelly.
And I'm Eric Shaver, and today we are sitting in a 2021 Forest River Riverstone Legacy 383 MB.
Wow.
I've never said river so many times consecutively than I'd have in that sentence.
Well, this would look a lot better in your driveway than sitting in our showroom. So if you're interested in this, call Eric.
Buy our studio. We need another one.
Buy our studio. We'll always find another one.
We'll find another one.
Well, today we had a great conversation with Keith over at Clear2O Water Filtration. I had no idea how much I didn't know about water filtration.
I didn't know there was that much to learn.
I
about
literally
water
have questioned every glass of water that I've had.
I know it.
Almost in my life after that interview.
That was great. We learned a ton. We learned that it's microns, not macrons, which was
I gotta tell
one of my
you,
favorite
I watched
moments.
so many YouTube videos in preparation for this. I was so excited to talk about microns. And I asked him a question. I go, so normal ones have 20 macrons in it. How is yours different? And then right away, right when it came out, I was like, no words. He goes, it's a micron.
Listen, we're RV salesmen. We're not scientists.
No,
So-
we're not. We tried. Didn't work
Don't
out.
take our word for it.
Yeah. But do take Keith's. So you're
Yes.
going to enjoy this podcast. Any questions that you've had about water filtration, he's probably going to answer it. So with that, enjoy the show. Welcome to the Wheel Estate Show, brought to you by the top 50 dealer Beaver Coach Sales with your host, Ryan Kelly.
And Eric Shaver. If you're here to learn about all things RV, you're in the right place. In this podcast, we sit down with people who build, buy, and sell RVs to bring you an in-depth look at the RV lifestyle.
Well, Keith, good morning. Thank you very much for joining us on our show.
Oh, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. No, we're glad you got an opportunity to hop on here and get to share a little bit about the product and your background and all of that. So let's just jump right into it. So Keith, tell us a little bit about how you started in the water filtration game and where you guys are at now.
Absolutely. Well, we've been in business since about 2008 overall. And really where we started was in the kitchen product side of the business, doing water filtration, specifically water bottles and water pitchers with filters, all with trying to make better water. That's really been what our goal is. We've never really tried to be the biggest guy out there. We really want to make a better water product, and so they can deliver better water for the customers out there. And in about 2016, about 5 years ago, we actually started developing products for RVs, mostly because we bought an RV at our point in time, and we just really didn't find the kind of filtration that we were looking for. And that was sending us kind of more into the bottled water world, and we don't like to go there for the most part. So, we started developing our own water filter for our RV.
Yeah. I know that whole water bottle when you're going out camping, we've done that a ton as well, where you just load up on some Costco water bottles and go out dry camping because you can't trust the water, and then kind of see where that leads you. So what kind of motorhome do you have?
We have a Tioga Ranger ClassA, 26 foot. So there's four of us, so we're packed in there pretty well. But it actually is, it's been great. We've really enjoyed having that.
Great.
That's awesome. Is that your first RV?
It is. Well, when I was a kid, we had a pop-up.
Oh, nice.
So that was our family vacations for all the time that I was a kid. So, we drove around and wore that thing out. But we actually, my wife was like, I'm not pulling a trailer. We're driving it. And so we started out in a ClassA, and that's where we've remained so far. Still trying to figure out where do we want to go next.
Awesome. I know a guy that can help you with that. So tell us a little bit about some of the major problems with like RV water filtration systems. It's something that we deal with very, very frequently, and campground water and different things like Ryan was saying. We've all done the water bottle trick, and there's many times when you're in your RV and you don't want to drink the water out of the tank or out of the campground. So tell us a little bit about that and how we can fix it.
Absolutely. Well, water for the most part is a problem virtually all over the world, and so the key thing is finding the cleanest water possible. One of the things that we're always trying to tell people about is that if you filter your water, then you control that last stage before it actually gets to your glass. So you're not really reliant on where that water came from. You're not really reliant on what municipality or what well system or what piping system, all the things that water came through before it actually reached you. but you do control it from that spigot on inward to your location. Regardless of what kind of filter you use, you're improving the water at that point in time. And that's kind of where we like the people to start understanding and focusing. The more they understand it, the better quality of filter that they want. And by doing so, the cleaner the water that they can actually have. Now, when you're going to campgrounds, I'm sure you've gone out, you've turned on the spigot and seen the brown water come out. That's 90% rust that actually is just occurring from the pipes. But you should always flush that first, because it's going to get flushed into your filter. And your filter may stop it, but then you're going to clog your filter. So we always recommend that you just please flush the faucet a little bit before you actually use it. But then after that, you may have gotten that kind of rotten egg smell or some other taste issues or color issues. And all those can be removed by a good quality filter. So you can bring that in. So we started out in RVing buying bottled water. We weren't really that happy with doing that overall, because by the time you fill up that coffee pot, you've gone through so many bottles. It seems like we were throwing plastic away all the time. And so it was just important for us to be able to do that where we can fill up at the sink. And we drink a lot of coffee, so have to make that as easy as possible.
Definitely.
So speaking of the quality of the filter, what is going to be the primary difference between like the blue filter that you see, that kind of 20, macro or water filter system that you see, and what you guys offer, and the difference between a 1-stage and a 2-stage?
Yeah, absolutely. The key difference, and I'm sure everyone's gone to campsites and they've seen the blue filter. There's a white filter as well, that made by different manufacturers that you see out there, and they're virtually similar. They run anywhere from 20 micron to 100 micron. So a lot of people don't really know what a micron is, and so a micron is a millionth of a meter, so it's very tiny. A red blood cell is about 5 micron across, so it'll give you some idea of what a micron level is overall. But a human hair is around 30 micron. So if you're using a 100 micron filter, no telling what is actually coming through that filter and coming straight into your glass. So micron is very, very, very important to pay attention to, because the smaller it is, the better filtration you're going to run into overall. So when we brought out our green filter, and just tell the difference is it's bright green, similar to my shirt here actually, and it's the difference is we use a solid carbon block, and that solid carbon block actually protects you down to 1 micron. And so in doing so, you get a lot more residency time with the water. It stays intact with the filter a lot longer. And so that gives the carbon a lot more opportunity to be able to bring out and remove all those contaminants. When you're using the blue or even the white filter, they're made from granular carbon. And so the difference between the two is it's just granules that are inside those filters. You can shake them and hear them as you're going along. Water has a tendency to kind of push those out of the way. So you have water rushing through those. There's not a lot of time for that water to interact with the carbon. And because of that, you can only do a certain level. Now, don't get me wrong, granular carbon's a great technology overall, but it doesn't even come close to what you can do with solid carbon. And so I've got I don't know if you can see this or not, but this is actually what's inside our filter overall. So it actually, all the water has to pass through the wall of the filter itself. So you're not going to have any bypass of water that's going to be coming through, or any pushing any of the granules out of the way. It actually has to all go 100% through the filter itself. So that makes a big difference in what level of contaminants we can absorb in the carbon.
Mm-hmm. So could you explain to us a little bit about what contaminants people might find? And I know we're kind of lucky in Oregon. We have incredible water. You can almost just, drink it right out of the river, but
some parts.
Most parts. But I'm sure people all across the nation have different varying qualities of water and that sort of thing. Could you explain to us a few of the things that people might be using the filter for, some specific things that might be filtering out?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you're talking about municipal water, so if it's a campground that's located where they can actually access municipal water, all that water is controlled by the EPA, and the EPA maintains standards. But those standards don't necessarily make for great water. They just make for protected water. In other words, you're not necessarily going to get sick from it, because they're not allowed to go over the contaminant level for those. that doesn't necessarily mean that you don't want to remove those. So you can still find lead, arsenic, copper, other things in that water, and you want to remove those. One of the bigger things that's coming out now is PFOEs. Those are an old manufacturing process, really from the 1970s, that's gotten in the water table, and it actually now is showing up everywhere as well. And that becomes more and more of a problem that's coming out. And when you add in insecticides and pesticides, some of these things are not necessarily regulated, but they're in our water table. So anything and everything that is bad for you, we want to try to pull those out or reduce them to a level that you are actually not going to have any kind of bad experience with those overall. So whereas if you buy some of the other filters out there, they're not going to remove those types of things just because of the structure of the filter itself.
Wow, interesting. And, you know, like at home, I have the filter on the fridge that tells you that it's expired or you need to replace it. How do you know with your filtration system when it's time to switch it out?
Yeah, it's a terrible secret, but refrigerator filters are on timers. So if you mark on the calendar, you're going to see it tells you every 6 months, change that filter. And if you use it or you don't use it. I would tell you first and foremost on those, absolutely change them every 6 months. And a good rule of thumb would be probably to change them more often than that. They're designed to run at least that period of time for a standard amount of water use. So if you have more than the normal of people at your household, then you're probably using excess water according to that standard. So because of that, change it more often. Now, if it's just you by yourself, then probably 6 months is fine, and you're going to be able to do that. Every filter is a little bit different. You can't tell when to change a filter when you're using a blue inline filter or a white inline filter, because the flow rate is generally going to continue to remain strong. But after 2 months of use, it generally has already used up all of the holding capacity of the carbon. So now it's come time to change that filter, and because really all you're doing is running water through it, it's no longer absorbing any contaminants. So that's kind of an important thing to change more often than not. And not just because I'm selling filters, but because you're using up the capacity of the carbon itself. Our filter is a little bit different because of the solid carbon block. It actually is designed to clog. So when you start seeing it actually clog, then that's when the flow rate is diminished. Now it's time to change that filter out and move on to a brand new filter. And generally for that's 2 per year, maybe 3 per year, depending on how often they actually use it. There's a big difference between a full-timer and a part-timer, of course, on that as well. So, and it's water usage on ours, not necessarily the time frame. So.
Gotcha. Now, do you have, is it being a solid carbon block, does it affect the flow rate even when it's a new filter? Will it slow the flow rate down at all, or?
Yeah, we're about 20% slower than the competitor. Now, the difference between the two is we're at 3.5 gallons per minute, but your shower in your RV is generally 2 to 2.5 gallons per minute, and usually that's what people are kind of looking at as how hard their shower is. So we're already above that level. And because we're above that level, people usually don't notice that we are actually a little bit less. Again, the competition's about 20% faster, just simply because they're using granular carbon.
Gotcha.
Okay. And still, when you're at the RV parks, you're gonna hook up to a water pressure regulator and try to keep it somewhere between 40 to 60 psi.
Yeah, absolutely. We recommend always to use a pressure regulator, and because there's a thing out there in the world, in the plumbing world, called a water hammer. I don't know if you're familiar with this or not, but water itself physically can't be compressed. So when it comes through, it's coming through as more like a solid, actually. And when it hits an RV and you have a high pressure situation like that, you run the risk that you break a fitting or that you have some type of hose issue or whatever it may be. So that pressure regulator just protects you against that. It just prevents all of that from happening. The recommendation for an older RV is always 50 psi max, and a newer RV is around 60 psi. And so between those two, generally you're in pretty good shape.
Gotcha.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah. I do have another question too. So totally dissolved solids. This is something that I'm not super familiar with. I've heard it before, and I've heard it, the term thrown around. But could you explain a little bit about that to us and what that?
Sure, absolutely. It's a term that is being used a lot from a marketing standpoint by some of the other companies in water filtration, not just in RV filtration, but in water filtration in general. And what a total dissolved solid is actually usually a metal, and it's actually dissolved in the solution of the water itself. So it's not necessarily a particulate. In other words, it actually is in the solution. And so the major number one TDS that's out there is calcium. So magnesium is right behind it. So it actually is beneficial minerals. So the part that you don't necessarily always see when they talk about it is that what they're removing is actually beneficial minerals to you. And in truth, you really don't want to bring those out. I don't know if you've ever looked at a water bottle and you've noted on there how they actually produce it or what they do to it. It's what kind of filtration they run a water bottle through. But generally, it says at the bottom, minerals added back for taste. And those are magnesium and calcium that they're adding back to bottled water once they've removed it from the cleaning process overall. So we recommend keep your calcium and don't fall for the TDS out there. It's a good scientific measure, but it doesn't necessarily measure contaminated water.
Sure. My wife and I went to Fiji for our honeymoon, and we were amazed that, first of all, the Fiji water in Fiji at the source is about 3 times more expensive than it is here in the States. But same thing, you read the label and you're like, oh, this water is fresh. It goes through the springs and the filtration systems and the mineral and all that. And so, get me
Great
some
marketing.
Fiji water. Then you're like, $12. You're like, I thought this is it. We're at the source. But yeah, it is a great marketing. Gets me.
There's a lot of marketing involved with a lot of these things. That's why we always tell, read the labels and really educate yourself as to what type of water you're looking for and what kind of filters that you need to have overall, because not every filter is the same. That's one of the things I always tell you. A coffee filter is a filter. And so it doesn't really remove much to keep the coffee from falling through. That's about all it does. And so the thing is that you want to look for a good quality filter that can achieve what you're trying to actually do.
No, that makes sense.
So on that note, with your filters, is it filtering every single drop of water coming into the RV, or is it and I guess what I should ask is, like, so let's say, because with RVs we have a couple different options. You have city water where it's bypassing the tank, going straight through the plumbing, and then you have your tank itself. And your tank itself is typically a pretty clean tank. However, with enough time, and we found it, if you're a RVer who only RVs, in the summer months, and you have a little bit of water that sits in there, you can grow some bacteria, and it can become a water you wouldn't want to drink right out of your faucet. So would you recommend a product for like the faucet as well? So like you pour it in a pitcher, that sort of thing, or I guess how would an RVer do that out of the tank versus in line?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question, and actually one of the first questions people ask really overall when we go to a trade show, and we get a lot of questions there at the trade show. It's really, how do I filter? What are the process for all of this? These are the things that people ask us as well. And really what I always ask people to try to think about is, first and foremost, how is the water being managed on their RV in the first place? So you just mentioned tanks. Do you have a filter going into the tank, or do you have a filter coming out of the tank? And so you're going to manage this a little bit differently depending on how that actually is. Are you managing all of your water through a filtration system, or is it just a single filter as an example? So I'll answer the first question that you asked, which is, for filtering all of your water, the largest organ in your body is your skin, and it absorbs a huge amount of water overall. So I've always been a believer, if I'm not willing to drink it, then why would I want to shower in it? And so the key thing is that I want that good quality water for everything I do, not just for my drinking water by itself. Now, my drinking water I want to be very, very specific about, but at the same time, I want to make sure I'm at least cleaning all the rest of the water. So we like people to think in stages of things. So we talked a little bit earlier about filtration. I showed you our solid carbon block. it actually kind of does two different types of filtration. The first type of filtration you should always think about is a blocking filtration. And I'm holding my hands up just so you understand it. This is just a physical blocking. It actually doesn't change the quality of the water in regard to the taste or the odor or whatever it may be. It just keeps particulates from coming through. And so that's usually accomplished through a pre-filter. And so if you can use a pre-filter stage, then that's going to help get rid of the sand, the silt, the sediments, the things that are going to come in and clog up your carbon filter. So the next stage is moving into a chemical absorption stage, which is actually a carbon filter. So if you can move from that pre-filter stage to a carbon, now you're absorbing all of the chemistry that's in the water overall. And generally the next stage after that, if you have the opportunity for 3 stages, would actually be then a low micron stage. So once you get below the 1 micron level, really a half micron is the target, you're now at the microbial level. And so now you're removing a lot of the bacteria, et cetera, that could be in the water when you're down to that level. And then really, that's just really for your drinking water. Overall, it's not as important for your shower water, et cetera, because those are really more about the chemistry that you need to remove. So the key thing is really understanding how you actually filter the water, what quality of water you're looking to actually achieve, where you are. I guarantee in some parts of the country, the water is horrible. Other parts, the water is great. And so sometimes you actually may want to adjust your filtration based on where your location is as well. So having options and kind of coming at it from a perspective of what level do I need to bring to this to make sure my quality of water at my glass is the best is really, it's an educational thing for yourself, but it's also just having some options there that you can move and mix and match. We actually make a product called a Dirt Guard, and it actually is this product here. Now, what it goes with is actually an inline filter. So the inline filter fits up underneath. This gives you now 2 stages of filtration. So for example, this is actually the filter that the water will go through first and foremost. And so this blocks out up to 20 micron. And then that now allows the 20 micron water to flow through your carbon filter. And that makes your carbon filter work a little bit better. What people don't realize, whether they use ours or anyone else's, that once they have a lot of silt in the water or particulate, I'm sure you've turned on a glass or gotten a glass of water and you saw some like white floaty things that are in the water there. Those are all just particulates that are there, but they will clog a filter. So if you have a lot of those, then it's going to clog it faster. And so in doing so, being able to remove all that out makes your filter last longer. But what it also does is it protects it from being coated. So if you've ever been in Georgia, I just came back from Oklahoma actually, and there's a lot of red clay in Oklahoma and in Georgia. And that red clay is in the water table, of course, and you're going to pull in some portion of that. And that actually is going to coat the carbon. So once it coats the carbon, the water now passes over the clay as opposed to passing through the carbon. So again, just another tip is just to try to get those things out first and allow your water to be much, much more cleaner so your filter can do a better job.
Wow. This is amazing how much you didn't know about
Seriously
water filtration. I'm rethinking every glass I've ever had.
I know, it's especially in the RV world. I mean, it's something it's such a different thing. Like at home, you turn on the faucet and you go. This is such a different process. So
and I've always thought the difference between it doesn't matter. I'm just showering with this water, right? Or I'm just
I never thought of that
washing your hands with it. We'll use bottled waters. Yeah, it definitely does make a difference, doesn't it? And
if you've ever been in really bad hydrogen sulfide water, which is the rotten egg smell, that sulfur smell, the whole thing, that will stay. You'll smell that on your skin, afterwards. So that was one of the first reasons we said we have a lot of that problem here in Florida, and that was one of the big drivers of us making our own filter, because we just didn't want to have that around all the time. Didn't want to smell it in the shower, So, and of course, wanted to make sure it never made it into our coffee cup.
Yeah, no kidding.
That brings up a good question. I'm kind of curious about how you started and how you got interested, or what was the path that led you to water filtration?
Well, for me personally, I was always involved in the sales and marketing side of the businesses. I came from a small appliance background, so I was already in kitchen types of products. The company I worked for wanted to develop a new category, and at that time, water was kind of an emerging category overall. And so, in the early 2000s, started working on various different water projects overall, and it just kind of continued to stay there because once I kind of felt like, we can actually make an impact here, then of course you don't want to go anywhere else, so there's still a lot more things that we can do on the water side. We're constantly looking to develop new products, and because not everybody RVs the same way, and not everybody uses water the exact same way in their kitchens as well. So we're even currently developing some new kitchen products as well to be able to do that can be used in your RV. So it's just a kitchen. It's a kitchen on wheels is really, what it is. They're very similar overall between the two.
Wow.
Definitely.
So you guys are in residential, you're in RVs, you have some gardening filter options. Where do you guys see your company going next? I mean, what's the next step or the future of your company look like?
Well, for us, it's a little bit more continuing to grow out through some of these new product areas. And so you've identified it right there. We actually have a garden filter, and that's actually been very successful overall for our summertime sales. And we want to continue to develop those. We want to get into some of the other areas because the current filters out there don't necessarily always pull out the right kinds of contaminants. And so in doing so, we want to be able to be more specialized and offer some specialized types of filters because you may be of a perfect health and have no issues and everything, but someone else has an allergy, or they have some type of issue with a particular type of contaminant. And we want to be able to pull some of those out and give out some more specialty filters. So those type of people can actually get clean water as well.
That's great. That's great. And I heard about the hiking one that you have too for your backpack.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the areas that we're exploring now is that, and it's really tied back into the RV space. More and more people are going on adventure camping. They're parking their RV, but they're actually going out for a day hike, etc. So what we wanted to bring out was something to help with that. And so I have it right here, actually. So we brought out this product here, which is actually similar to a water straw. So it actually is a 0.1 micron. So just give you how small that is, that it's actually at the virus level and below. So you can actually drink from open water sources for this. And so if you were to be out, we always recommend if you're hiking, take water with you. That's your primary water should always be the water you bring with you. But if you actually run out, you walk too long, you're in a situation where you need more water for whatever reason, then you can pull this out of your backpack, and it's 2 stages. It actually has the 0.1 micron stage, which will remove all the particulates and anything else that's in there that's going to harm you. And then we have a carbon stage. Now this is a replaceable carbon stage. So what you can do is just put that in there, because if you're drinking out of open water source, out of a lake or whatever it may be, if it tastes fishy, you're going to taste that fish through this stage. But once it's carbon's in there, it's going to remove all that taste and make for a better type thing. It comes with a 1 liter pouch as well, so you can actually carry that water with you once you've filtered it overall. But we're doing more of these types of things. We want to look at some of the other camping as well, and be able to bring that out for people that are going camping. They want to stay in one area, but they're not near a water spigot, or they're not at a campground. They're actually in a backwoods kind of area, and they really are looking at open water sources more than anything else.
Sure.
Wow, that's pretty cool. I've used those. We in Oregon, we've so like Cody and I, one of our marketing guys, we've done some backpack hunting, different things like that, and so the Life Straw products and different things like that, that's something that is super important, because you can only carry so much. And if you're out for weeks on end like Cody, or 2 days like me, and you drink all your water,
or 2 hours,
or
like
2
me.
hours, yeah, that's a really, really cool product, and 0.1 microns. So one thing
we want people to do it before they actually need it, right? Carry that with you just in case.
That's pretty cool. And I never realized 0.1 microns, like what you said, like virus level. That's serious filtration. I mean, you can drink it right out of the lake, and I can only imagine you're getting pretty much everything out of it.
Absolutely. Yeah, and it's actually designed to be backwashed. So the actual product, you can actually screw it on from either end. And once it starts to get clogged up a little bit, you can just turn around and backwash through it and then clear that out and then use it again. So it's good for about 200 gallons, and it's time to replace. But that's a lot of water while you're camping. So that's a lot of water usage.
Yeah, 200 gallons. I can't imagine how long it would take me to drink 200 gallons.
Yeah, exactly.
That is super cool.
So where can RVers find more about you guys?
Well, they can come to our website, which is Clear2O.com, and that's available to see our products and see a little bit more about us, of course, on the whole thing. But we're available for sale on all of the major online. So we're on Amazon, Walmart.com. We're actually in Walmart stores. We're also in Camping World as well. So at campingworld.com as well. So you can usually find us at all of those types of fairs. Even Wayfair has a couple of our products. So we continue to look for more and more, and more people are contacting us to pull our products in.
That's great.
Awesome.
You know, for us, we're just on the sales side of things in the RV world. And what we found is that customers, when they know more about their product, when they know more about an RV, they know more about the water filtration systems or the solar panel, whatever, you have a more educated buyer who's able to make a better decision. And we just want to really say thank you for coming on and helping educate our customers on water filtration. I learned a lot today.
Yeah,
Jeez.
Seriously. I never knew there was so much to know and learn about water filtration. So that's phenomenal.
Absolutely.
I learned a ton. Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
And we did our job. So that's the one thing we always want to do is educate first and foremost. So I'm happy to hear that.
Definitely.
That's great.
We appreciate it big
Awesome.
time.
Well, we'll keep you posted on upcoming events that we have going on, because we love to have you out here at one of our rallies or one of our shows. We have a lot of RVers that come through here. But until then, thank you very much, Keith, for coming on our show, and we'll see you down the road.
All right, guys. Thanks very much.
Take care.
Thanks, Keith. Well, that was an awesome podcast. We learned a ton about water filtration from Keith over at Clear2O. So thanks again, Keith, for coming on. We had a couple other things we wanted to talk about. Some things we're sponsoring this summer, and I wanted to give you some dates on that.
Big summer coming up at Beaver Coach Sales.
Yeah.
First off, we have a big pickleball tournament that we're sponsoring here in Bend, Oregon. It's called the Northwest Classic, and it is the biggest pickleball event of the year in the greater Bend area. So you want to make sure that you show up for that. It's going to start the 29th of July and will end when it's over.
Which I believe is the 2nd of August, if I'm not mistaken. And then also we're sponsoring the Oregon Jamboree, which is a country music festival in Sweet Home, which is one of my favorite events we do every year. I think my wife enjoys that more than our anniversary.
Oh,
she gets
sweet.
that excited about it.
Wow.
So, which is awesome. Thank you, Tara. And so anyway, we're going to be at that for July 30th through August 2nd. And that's going to be a ton of fun. So if you want to come over and see us there.
And we just got done with the Successful Driving School. If you guys have any questions about driving, or you just don't feel comfortable, or maybe you don't like to get driving lessons from your spouse, you got to show up for our next event. We're going to do it the last Thursday of every month to make it simple until fall rolls around or the roads get too icy here. So make sure that you sign up for that.
So for that driving school, make sure you sign up online at beavercoachsales.com.
Perfect. With that, everyone, enjoy your day, and we'll see you down the road.